Hey guys, it's Greg with Phoenix Automotive, and today we are working on the most ridiculous and terrible window regulator door assembly that I have ever worked on ever. It's a 2006 Audi A4, B7 style, but this will apply to B6 as well. Stay tuned to see why this is one of the most ridiculous window regulators I've ever seen torn apart. Alright, so we're going to start out with the easy part, and that is taking the door trim panel off. So the first thing we need to do to take the door trim panel off is going to be to remove this silver trim piece. Actually, it starts from the front. My bad. Start from the front here and just peel this boy back like this. And there's a bunch of little clips all the way to the end here where it slides out. Be careful on the last part there. It is actually hinged like this, so don't try and pull it straight out because you'll break that piece off. So we got the silver piece off, and now we're left with some screws, which I'm going to take out with a drill just to make life a little bit easier. We got one right here, we got one right here, one right here, and one right here. So 4 across the top. Okay, now there's also one hiding underneath here, which we're going to take out next with a longer Phillips head screwdriver. You're definitely not going to be able to see in there, but there is, I promise, a screw that you kind of have to fish around for, and that screw falls into the door, which is fine. So now that you've gotten those 5 screws off, you're going to go down to the corner here. I'm using trim pliers to do this. You can also use a screwdriver. But basically you just need to get a little bit of a start here. So you get your fingers behind this and then just kind of pop it open like that. You may break a clip or two in the process of removing the door panel. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. That's the best way I've found, as barbaric as it looks, to actually get all the clips off in as good a shape as possible. So once we get this door panel off, we'll see how good I actually was. But from here, the door should be just kind of hinged at the top like this. All you have to do from here is just slide it up out of the channel like that. Now that'll remove the door panel from the door, but it doesn't completely release it because we still have a couple of things on the back side of the door to take care of. The first one being the wire or line or whatever it is for the door handle. That just pulls out like that, and there's a hook like that to release that. Next thing we have to do, ooh, someone's been in here before. Undo that little clip that someone put there. I assume because they broke the actual clip. But on this thing here, yep, they broke it. So on this thing here, there's supposed to be a little push clip, and you push that down before you release this up. So just keep that in mind. This one's broken, but normally you push down like this and pull this open like so. The other thing you have to take out is the speaker wire. That just clips from both sides. And that's that. And that is how you take the door panel off of the passenger door. Next thing we're going to be tackling is the speaker. Take that off real quick. There's another wire here, same way as the other one. That just releases like so. After you get the wire out, the next thing you're going to be doing is with a T25 Torx, taking the other 3 screws out of the speaker. There's one hiding all the way at the bottom here. I don't know if you can see that or not, but hopefully that comes through. But there's 3 total screws to take that off. Pull up from the bottom. Someone has seriously been in here before. Normally that has 2 sides to it, and you just kind of have to hinge it up like that to pull the speaker off. And that gets your speaker off. It also gives you access to the bottom of your regulator, but we'll get there in a second. Next thing we're doing is 3 bolts on the motor. They are also T25, and there's one hiding underneath here. Very important reminder, at this point we're going to be playing around with the door airbag. This is an airbag sensor right here. Anything yellow on the inside of the car, anything with a yellow connector on it like this, is airbag related. If you're going to disconnect any of these, make sure that you've disconnected the battery first. Disconnect the battery, let it sit for about 10 minutes or so, make sure you tap the brake and get any juice that's left in the system out of it, because you don't want to accidentally deploy any of your airbags. So make sure that the battery is disconnected before you touch anything yellow connector on the inside of a car. These connectors on this car are backwards from the normal way. You'd think you'd pull them out this way, but you don't. You push them in all the way to the top like that, and then pull down, and they release like that. Do that one more time just so you can see it. Pushes all the way in, and then pulls out. You have to hold it in while you pull it out like that. And that gets rid of that. Now you can take your window motor off. Window motor is going to have a couple more electrical connectors on the backside. Go ahead and take those off. Pretty standard quick disconnect. The one all the way to my left is sometimes not very nice. See if it's going to be on this one. No, it doesn't. I don't know how they designed this. But you can just kind of jam something underneath there and pry that end up, and that'll get you enough to... It's just this piece here, this little square has to get up over that pin or clip or whatever, and that gets your window motor off. Now the next thing you're going to want to do is take this trim piece right here off of the top. It's a rubber trim piece. Kind of pry it up all the way across the whole thing. It's more solid than normal. Usually these are just made out of like softer rubber, but on this one it seems to be a little bit more hard into place. And once you get to the other end, it'll kind of just pop right up like that. So that takes that off of there. So the next thing you're going to do after you get this trim piece off is to take the weather stripping off from the outside of the door here. See, that goes all the way around here. Start at one side of it. Be careful with this stuff. It's pretty easy to break, so just be very careful with it. I'm going to try and use some clip pliers here, but again, just be very careful with it. It's in a channel here, so once it starts coming out of the channel, it's super easy to get out. So once we get that started, you'll see now we can just peel the whole thing. Out from the inside of the door. And that peels all the way down to right about there. And we can just leave that slack because that is going to have to go back into place. So the next thing we're going to do from here is this plastic piece right here needs to come off. So again, with the trim pliers, that pops off. There are two Torx in here. This is the one that you have to take off, the bottom one. So go ahead and take the bottom Torx off. That is T30. To take that one off. And that takes that off. Now we're going to have to take off this inner skin, door skin, which is normally glued on quite a bit harder than this, so be very careful with it around the outside here. This stuff is very easy to break. I'm not particularly concerned with it on this one because I'm not putting this car back together, but on yours I assume you will be putting it back together, so just be careful pulling this stuff off of the inside of the door. It likes to rip very easily. I don't know if I just ripped it there. Nope, I guess I didn't. Okay, so that's your inner door liner off of the car. The next thing we're going to be doing is taking off the two bottom bolts, screws, off of the bottom of the regulator here. They are T25 Torx. One there and one here. And that frees up the bottom of the regulator. Next thing we need to do is with a pair of pliers, we have to push these blue pins right through here. Now these are on the backside on the regulator. They're what holds the motor onto the front side. So take a pair of pliers. And you'll see this is the best one to show it on. You can see there's two little teeth right on either side of it. If you pinch those together with your pliers, you can push it right through like that. And do that on all 3 of them. And make sure that those pins are clear of the door, because we're going to be pulling that up in just a minute here. So that takes care of that. The next thing we're going to be doing is taking off the big bolts to take off the window track. So this whole top part of the window here is actually going to be coming out of the car in just a second. And it is held on at this point by 4 T45 Torx. One here, one here, one here, and then there's one on the side of the door here, which is going to need to come off as well. So I'm going to grab the T45. You're going to need an extension eventually. I'm just putting it on now just for ease. One there. One there. One there. And pop this cover off. And you'll see on the inside, I doubt you can see that, but in there is the last one, a T45. Last thing we need to do before we pull this all the way up and through is going to be to free up the electrical connection for the mirror, because the mirror is going to come up with this. So the mirror connection pushes through here. If it's easier, you can move this whole rubber grommet through to this side, and it has a hole cut in it so that you can easily get this stuff through here. Once that's through to the other side, that's it for the electrical. Just keep an eye on that as it comes up through the door. You don't want it to get snagged on anything. So at this point, we can take the whole top of the door off. Now, just before you lift the whole frame up through, your regulator is free, so you should be able to lift the glass up and through here. It's just going to make it a little bit easier with the glass up and out of the way. Since the motor's disconnected, you can pull the whole thing right up and through, and it's not too difficult to do so. So you have the window all the way up like that. It's going to make it a little bit easier on the last bit here. So, with all your bolts out, all your electrical connections, make sure that the blue pins are through there. Make sure your mirror electrical is all taken care of. 4 bolts are off of the top, 1 bolt off of the bottom for the mirror. Sometimes they get a little stuck like that. My apologies for having to beast on that a little bit. But once you get it to be loose like this, you can come around to the back side here. And the whole assembly comes out like so. That gives you access, finally, to 2 T25 bolts on the back side here, which are holding your mirror or your glass on. Go ahead and remove those. With those off, you can pull this up and out here, up and out here. Actually, slide it down a little bit. That was my mistake. Now you can lift these up a little bit. Now with the mirror or with the window glass out of the way, you can release the window glass like that. Which leaves us last but not least with the regulator itself. The regulator itself is held on with 2 more T25 bolts at the top. And a clip. And that is the window regulator removed from the door frame. And I hope now you can see why that is the most ridiculous window regulator design I have ever seen. So we're going to keep going here. Next up, we're going to take the mirror off. You can now flip this around. It is worth noting that you can kind of get the window or the mirror off without having to take this whole thing out. It is clipped on the inside here, so you have to do a little bit of pulling that isn't super clean. So if it's your car, it's up to you. Since I'm trying to keep everything nice in here, at least on the mirror, I'm going to use my trim pliers again to grab those two clips. Without breaking them. Like so. So the last thing we're going to be doing here is taking that bolt, which is another T30, off of the mirror, which will allow it to pop through like that. And that's how you get your window frame and your mirror off of your A4. To remove the actuator from this door, the first thing we need to do is grab this line, this linkage that goes from the door handle down to the actuator, like so. You can do it either from the bottom or the top. The top is more of your standard style of clip. So I like to pull the door handle down a little bit like this, and then push the clip out either with my finger if it's strong enough, or a tool if it isn't. My hand is not strong enough today to do it, so any kind of screwdriver or whatever will do it. Hopefully yours isn't as stuck as mine is. There it goes. And that'll, once that's loose, you can push the pin right through. Like that. And that'll release the linkage from the regulator, or the actuator, I'm sorry. Next thing we're doing is taking this through the door. It's a little rubber grommet. It pushes through like so. So that's nice and free now. And on the back side, we're going to be using a M8 triple square, which looks like that, to take these last couple of screws off. One right there, and one right there. With those two out, the actuator is free. And hopefully I have enough room to show you how this electrical connector works. I do, haha. So these are supposed to, and I know some VW techs say they can do this real easy by their hands, but it's supposed to be able to push down and back at the same time to get this little pin back there to move up. I just cheat. Use a knife or a pick and push this up and then pull out. And it comes right out. And that is how you get the actuator out of the door. Now the last thing we're going to be doing here is taking out the outside door handle. If you look in here, you can see that there's a kind of a lock pin here that holds this whole thing together. If you push from this side, there's a metal piece and a plastic piece. The metal piece is what you're actually looking to push. And if you push that over to the side like so, the whole thing will just come right apart. Once that piece comes off, that allows this back frame piece to come out like this, and that'll let you move the front piece out like this. I'll show you this real quick. This all goes together like so. You can see that it's all locked in like that. This is what it looks like when it's in the door. And all you're doing is just sliding this piece to the side like that. And once you slide it to the side, you essentially unlock it from the door. So now you can lift this. Oh, I didn't slide far enough. Yes, Didn't slide far enough. So once it's slid completely far past those pins, you can see that it's freed up enough that it can come through and separate the two pieces like that. And that is a completely disassembled B7 Audi A4 door. Thank you guys very much for watching, and stay tuned for more projects on this car.